Hi,
All
good
right.
afternoon, good evening. Welcome everyone to this open house, open forum session on one of very relevant topic to me because I'm sitting here right now uh, in Kenya, Africa. I have been, as some of you may know, I'm here on a 3 months consulting project with the organization here, but I've got a deep relationship with Africa. I mean, I've traveled to this continent for more than 9 years now, 8 to 9 years. I've been coming to Kenya quite regularly. I mean, before COVID, every year, once or twice a year, I used to travel here and go to not only the major cities like Nairobi and Mombasa, but also to other smaller towns like Nakuru, El Dorado, and there are a lot of other small uh, cities around where nobody goes, but I have been there. And then we have also been, I've been lucky enough to travel to around 15 plus countries in Africa, both in East Africa, West Africa, and also Central Africa. And having traveled the length and the breadth of this country, this continent, sorry, what I understood was that there is a lot of misconceptions about this place, about the continent, about the countries, about the diversity, and uh, and there are many stereotypes that we associate with this place, which, having been here myself, I can vouch that those stereotypes are really just that, they're only stereotypes. But especially with regards to career counseling and college counseling, uh, the scenario that is portrayed at majority of the international conferences or international forums is very lopsided. Because having traveled here, when we talk about, when we somebody says, oh, this is the career and college guidance landscape in Africa, I am taken a bit back, because I know, because Africa consists of 52, sorry, 54 countries, all in different geographic, economic, socio-economic conditions. And the students, that body that we are talking about, also comes from very different and varied backgrounds. So since I'm here on a 3 month project, I thought, I will try and get out stories, get out correct information to the audience that is interested in this part of the world, and also help you in better understanding how career and college landscape looks like in one of those African countries, which is Kenya, one of the largest economies in Africa, one of the most dynamic countries in on the continent, and a lot of international expat populations, a lot of international investments come to Africa via Nairobi or Kenya. And I'm so happy today that I have with me one of my dear friend, and dare I say, one of the best career counselors that I know, not only in Kenya but also globally, Ms. Shaheen Dar. As I mentioned on our WhatsApp group, her detailed profile is there, but Shaheen has spent more than 3 decades in the field of career and college counseling. She has been associated with some of the leading schools in Kenya. Her last assignment was with the Aga Khan School as a career guidance coordinator. And before that, she spent many years setting up the career counseling cell at the Oshwal Academy, which is one of the another leading schools in Kenya. I met Shaheen recently, and I requested her if you she could take some time out and just take around 1 hour to engage with the larger TOC community and tell us, what is it like to be a part of the career counseling and college counseling landscape in Kenya. And before I invite Shaheen, I would like to also give a brief introduction about the Outreach Collective. If some of you may know, the Outreach Collective is a forum that me and Bhakti Shah from India initiated about 3 months back as a platform for all of us working with the student community in various capacities, helping them transition from schools to university, to get together on a single platform to network, engage, learn, unlearn, so that we can all do better with regards to what we do in our daily jobs. So thank you so much for being a part of TOC and being a big support to us, to both me and Bhakti, for taking this conversation forward. Having said that, Shaheen, over to you. I would like to start with the first question that will come to anybody's mind. I mean, how did you end up being a career counselor and college counselor? I remember you telling me you were a geography teacher, and from geography you made it literature and geography teacher, and you literally made a transition to becoming a really, really well-known career counseling face, not only in Kenya but globally. Having traveled to, if I'm not wrong, many countries across the world and many university tours. And I mean, so amazing story there. So if you can take us through your journey of career and college counseling.
Yes, thank you very much, Ankur. Let me start by thanking you for having me as one of your speakers here. And I'm really honored to have been invited to this great collective initiative that you've started. I think I am one of your admirers, and the way you have sort of put everyone together for a common good, I think these are the things that you and I share together, because I feel that, you know, giving to the community your expertise, your ideas, your knowledge, and sharing it sort of makes it threefold more, and it is a service to humanity. So thank you very much, Ankur, for having invited me. And my hats off to the way you've overnight, you know, got so many. I think I'll call you the Pied Piper of India. So you have a great following, and that is admirable. Okay, so I'll just start with my introduction. And I am a careers consultant right now, and I'm also an advisor and a trainer. I train career counselors, and which I'm going to talk about later. But my journey started amazingly. Um, I started off, I qualified in the University of Nairobi, and then my subjects were English literature and geography. And the third subject was sociology. And finally, we had to drop one subject, carry on with two. So I decided literature and geography. And I just loved them to bits, those two subjects. It meant a lot of reading, but yes, I loved it. And as soon as I got out of university, started with a community school, which was a Muslim girls' school. Just taught there for about 2 years, shifted to a local curriculum, the KCSE, and it was a boys' school. So I went into O level and A level geography for the simple reason that I found geography more exciting than English. There was a lot of field work, there was a lot of engagement of students, there was a lot of fun, there was a lot of multiple skills that students picked up in this particular subject. So I taught there for a number of years, and then I had an opportunity opening up in Oswell Academy, which was a totally community school, a Shah school, and it was a boys' school. And then as I joined this school, I said, okay, this is going to be geography now. And I progressed to become the geography head of department, did very well. I usually had 100% results, and you know, everyone was very happy. But the most exciting thing happened, you know, hindsight. I think it's the best thing that happened to me, because all of a sudden, overnight, one of the staff decided to leave, a teacher who was also guiding students into university applications. And overnight, I was diplomatically coerced into becoming a career counselor. And obviously, when the head wants to tell you, he makes you feel, oh my God, there's nobody like you. You know, you're just the right fit for this particular thing. And with all those compliments and everything, I got carried away. And thank God I landed into the careers advisor's role. But my office, Ankur, you won't believe it, was under the staircase. And it was supposed to be a utility room, dark, no windows. And there was just one prospectus there, which was called the UCAS directory. You know, those were the days, the 90s, early 90s, when you had big directories and nothing else, all right? There were no laptops, nothing else in my office. So I started with that one directory and no student records. So I was actually thrown into the deep. I didn't have a clue about applications to UK because majority of the students were going to UK. So obviously this was an affluent society that I had landed in. The parents were very conscious of their status and they just wanted people to get into medicine, engineering. And I think we sort of share that common trait between India and Kenya and this particular community school. And so here I was sitting on my desk with a 300-page book, applications directory, and absolutely clueless on what I'm going to do. So obviously I had to really seek help. And the only person to help me out at that time was Laurie Green, who was an agent who was minting money on these UCAS applications. So again, that getting through to him to give me some help was an uphill task for me. So now my greatest venture was how am I going to, first of all, educate myself, train myself, because I cannot win the trust of the students and the parents.
And Shine, by the way, there was
Yeah,
no internet, right?
no
At
internet.
at that point of time when you were
No internet, no internet. Okay, there was a small little computer lab down there, which was
okay.
isolated, right? And I'm in this dark office, windowless, and not a clue on what I'm going to do. I tell you, it was a situation that I think would have pushed me out of that school. But anyway, I said, you know what? I'm not going to let this be a hindrance at all. So my next venture was that I was going to establish a fully well-equipped library, all right, because I didn't want students to just land in the UK. There were so many other opportunities that they were not aware of, which I had to make sure that I step out of my comfort zone and go out to whoever agents were available there at that time, because there was no computer, and sort of network with them and get as many prospectuses as possible and tell people, look, there are opportunities out here. Look at Australia, look at Canada, look at, you know, USA and things like that. So it was quite, and I'll talk about it further on. So once I had done that, when I left Oshawa, I had a fully fledged library, a fully fledged career facility where there were computers, there was a library, there was a one-on-one counseling room, and there was a place where people would come and give talks, etc. And we had career fairs. So I would organize UK university fairs, Australian fairs, except for Indian fairs. We never had Indian fairs in Kenya. There was only once that the Indian High Commission decided to put up a fair, which was quite a pathetic job. And I was, you know, I didn't know what to say. Well, anyway, my next venture, how did I land into my next venture, which was very good? Whilst I was here, I saw that people were clueless about their future. And I had to come up with a program starting from year 7 right up till the A levels that would sort of was progressively developmental, and that would slowly start with career awareness, get into career exploration, get on to subject choices, all right, and focus the students, crystallize that career choice into their final university choice. And so I set about, whilst I was here, I was visiting universities, requesting them to call me for familiarization tours. And every time I went on familiarization tours, I'd visit schools that had career facilities. I'd visit career offices in the UK, in Harrow. I'd see what they have out there. And then I would pick up the resources which I thought were quite relevant, but not so much for the Kenyan students. And so I had to adapt these resources to what we had. At that time, UK had the computers, they had the exposure, they had Kudos, which was a psychometric assessment, you know, online, which students were doing. And students here did not have a clue about it. So the first thing I did is I developed this curriculum. And then when I was about to release it, I told the head, I'd like to present it to the Board of Governors. And she said, no, you're not going to do that. So again, I had to find my way to the Board of Governors, do a presentation. They sort of backed me. So when I came back into the head's office and I said, so how was the presentation? And she says, you know what? You were saying I did the research. You should have said we. We did the research. So I said, well, that's not possible. And so I saw that there was a lot of frustrations building up here. And there was an opportunity in Aga Khan Academy, an IB school. I did not have a clue about what an IB school was all about. And I went and had a chat with Jerry Lynn Hainstock, who was a thorough professional and an educationist and saw the value of my program and said, okay, Shaheen, you're going to launch it in my school. Launching my program there for 7 years and resulted with a very high commendation from the International IB team. They wanted me to train counselors in all IB schools. And then I said, well, that's an opportunity which I should take, an independent decision on. And then I stepped out and started my own consultancy with the idea of developing the career counseling course. And that's when I met Manish, who opened the doors to technology. And very often, when parents used to come and tell me, oh, your session has been so good and we are so focused now, both we and our children, I'd say, I wish I could just become so many numerous atoms and disperse myself all over the world, because that's the kind of a service I wanted to give. And here was Manish offering me exactly that service. And so we developed an online portal where I actually created a career counselor's course, which was again verified by the Kenya Association of Professional Counselors. So the first group of counselors that we got were directly psychologists, people who were practicing 20 years, 30 years practice, who were coming to me for training on careers, education and progression. And there were people from all over. There was the human resource people, there were
So
university
Shaheen,
deans. Yes. Yes, Ankur.
impressive, impressive. May I ask you to hold at the moment? Oh, because there's too much of information that you have given us, and I would
Yeah.
like to take it, point by point. The first point
Okay.
that I want to address, I mean, phenomenal work, and you have given
Yeah.
us your journey of 30 years in last 5 minutes. But I really want you to focus on first few identifying, because there are a lot of new career counselors here in the community that are also trying to figure out how do they get the information, similar challenges that you would have been facing when you had no access to no internet. And I mean, today everything is available online. You mentioned about technology, and the nowadays in India, definitely we are a vibrant community with regards to technology and tech savvy online career counseling training programs and whatnot. But
Yeah.
if you could just identify, what made you, from a transition from a geography teacher, a literature teacher, to a career counseling expert, now that you have your own consulting and you have been so well uh, rewarded and recognized not only in Kenya but all over the world. What were those key early challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome those challenges?
Oh, there were many, many challenges. To begin with, as I told you, there was this immediate need of having resources to begin with, the library, the access to more information, all right, in terms of career decisions. I had the challenge of convincing parents that there was not only medicine and engineering, there were other
And
varieties, there were all
and you
other
can
related fields.
And you can talk about Oshwal, the kind of community Oshwal has. I mean, in terms of
Yeah.
because outside Kenya, people will not understand this.
Yeah, so the Oshul community were basically industrialists and businessmen. So big to begin with, to make the board of governors who were made of who were all industrialists and businessmen, to make them understand the educational importance of career counseling in the school was an uphill task. To convince them that this was a facility that we direly needed, and that we are not going to just churn out students with A stars. There are students going out with A's, 10 A stars and 4 A stars at A levels, but they don't have a clue which university to go to. They do not have a clue about what skills and how they're going to match the courses. So these were just blind bets. They were when any recruiter who came and managed to impress them, they would start following that particular recruiter. And at that time, there was a university agent who had a very big say, would come over and sort of sell universities that particular agent wanted to. So I had to make parents realize that the ownership of that application should lie with the student and not even the parents, right?
And did
But
they
the
buy it?
parents had to be informed. Yeah, it has to be an independent a kind of a decision that should not be. And there was a lot of parental pressure at that time. I also saw the plight of students who couldn't get into the top universities, who were average or a little below average, and they would land into substandard accountancy colleges or computer classes that, just thinking that computer is the big thing now. So let's just put him into any computer course. So again, all those
Like AI is happening today
yeah,
these days.
yeah, it was actually changing the mindset of a
And
community who were
how did you do
business.
that?
And that's exactly what I did. I started holding workshops for parents. I started holding talks. So I would call them at each level, or especially the 9, 10, and A levels, and I would literally talk to them about what is career counseling. They did not even understand what career counseling is. Who is a counselor? What does career guidance mean? All right. What is a career focus? What is the process through which the child goes from year 7 right up till this level? And what kind of a support do you need to give at each level? All right, in order to start with career awareness and how to support that child during that journey, along with the career counselor and along with the teacher. And so I started getting feedback, developing files on each student. Each student had a portfolio which he would carry from year 7. And that's where the parents could now see what the skills are. I would have assessments, all right, psychometric assessments that were free, that were online, that students would do. And I would put them in and say, look, were you aware of these skills? So this was a one-on-one talk, and it was group sessions with parents, with students, educating them on what needs to be done and how portfolios need to be developed. And that was my first step. So again, I would appreciate questions, because I'd like this to be interactive. I wouldn't want just me talking.
That
So
is
you're
strange
free
for
to
me.
interrupt me at any time, because I would really like to identify, in fact, what are the expectations of people who are here now? What would they want me to talk about? Can I just pause a little so that we get some
Yeah, I
feedback
mean
from
that
anyone?
is what we would like to. Anyone would like to ask any
Yeah.
question or have a
Hi,
feedback?
hi Ankur. Hi Shaheen. My name is
Hi, Anjali, how
Anjali.
are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for an insight. I think you've had a very celebrated career and a lot to learn, I think, from you there. I would just like to gain a little sense into, um, the country choices of students
Okay.
in your part of the Africa, as to what
Okay.
exactly and what are the questions that students tend to ask when looking at education abroad, and what are their primary concerns?
Okay.
And I think
Excellent.
related to this, but Shaheen, I'll add to this. I mean, generally, how do Kenyan students decide their careers and colleges, and I think Anjali's question will definitely add to what I will add to her question. I mean, generals, what is that ticking point? What are those challenges that they face?
Okay, so Anjali, thank you very much for that question. And that is why, and the very reason why I wanted to focus it to your needs so that you benefit with what I have to say. Let me start by giving you a basic environment, the education environment in Kenya. And I'll give you a few statistics on the total number of schools in Kenya. We have 10,420. And out of those, there are 136 national schools. Okay. So the national schools are where the top performers go, all right, from primary school, what we call the KCPE, the local system. They go into the KCSE, the secondary school, and the national schools take those top cream. So obviously they are the top performers. And I think as recruiters, you need to know this, right? And then we have the government schools, which are over 18,000, and only about 5,000 plus out of those have been fully accredited by the Ministry of Education. So there are many, many commercialized small scale schools. And again, it becomes an uphill task trying to identify. Then we have private schools, which are over 600. And we have TVET institutions. TVET is vocational education institutions. And then we have 48 universities, 22 of which are public and 26 private. Now, you can see the dilemma. You can see that there's a large market for you out here. There are very, very few universities and very selected few that are the top, okay, in terms of ranking. So if you check the rankings as well for Africa, you can see that you will see the Mount Kenya, or you'll see the Nairobi University, and very few that sort of stand up in that on that international list that students venture to. Now, I'll tell you that the interests, what you're talking about, the choices that they would want to make also depends on the kind of school. So majority of the private school want to go into international universities. They're not really interested in the local institutions. Majority of the parents, maybe at the time when I joined, had sent their families to UK and were here, they were there for studying and they wanted them to stay on. But now the scenario is changed, okay? The world it's a global market now, and it's become a global village now, so that no more do we have those kind of things where people want to migrate and sort of make a choice for the sake of migrations. Those were one of the reasons earlier on, but not now. So the kind of questions that a student from, let's say, an IB school or a very high-ranking IGCSE school would ask you, obviously, number one, and that is the parents' concern, is the cost, all right, the cost of education, the course, etc. Number two, the location, right? Now, I will come down to India and focus it on India later on, but generally, when they're looking at destinations, whether it's Canada or UK or US, all right, those are the common ones. Those are the questions that they are concerned about. The security of the child, and you can see there were many of our students going to South Africa, both in Noshwell and in Aga Khan. But recently, because of the insecurity in Joburg and in South Africa, the economic state that it is in, there has been a sudden slump. And again, even I'll tell you which are even the US has had a hit, and the UK, where majority of the students don't want to go there anymore. And the last few years, I saw a very, very big switch from the normal destinations of USA and UK fall drastically, but Canada picked up drastically. So the students who were initially going there now focused to going to Canada. And that was because, Anjali, the Aga Khan, the IB students get special scholarships in Canada. So a big amount of fee is just knocked off for just being an IB student. And for somebody who's got 45 points, they sort of knock off 80%. And then there were many, many leadership scholarships that our students were really good at securing, and which I made them secure. So basically, it depends a lot. The students are looking for scholarships, and if it's the middle income range of parents that you're looking at in these high cost schools, then they're also looking for a little bit of support in terms of fee. So whether it comes as a fee waiver, little fee waivers for applications or whatever, or if it is a small percentage, for high merit grades, then they look for those kind of things as well. And definitely, again, the ranking, one of the most important things, the first thing they would look at, and in fact, I had all the rankings on my ManageBack system where they could check rankings in universities and the top universities and other universities as well in all the countries, including Australia, okay, or Africa for that matter. So the rankings is one thing that they very, very strongly depend on. So if you feel that you want to promote universities, Indian universities, I would suggest to you, and I think let me focus it on
Shaheen,
what I feel.
Shaheen,
Yes,
I guess
yes, Ankur.
Anjali doesn't work with the Indian university. She works with the US university.
Okay, so you're working with the US universities. So yes, so there has been a drop in the US universities. Is there anybody who would, maybe I can come to the Indian universities later.
Later.
Anjali, did that answer your question?
Yes, it definitely did. And Shaheen, good you mentioned about special scholarships. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not too sure whether you were still there with Aga Khan Academy or not, but Huron University introduced a special scholarship for Aga Khan Academy schools across the globe. And I was
Yes, I was.
instrumental, yes, and I was instrumental in getting that done. At that point in
Yeah.
time, I used to work for Huron in Canada, and just recently,
Okay.
I switched to the US, which is why I
Okay.
think this session makes it very interesting for me to understand as to how to change the narrative for US. Just a follow up question, and you can choose not to answer it, is that
Yeah.
how much of the problems related to Black Lives Matter in the US has affected recruitment in Africa for US?
I think to a large extent, and when we had the Trump phase, do you remember when
Yes,
they were being very, very stringent with the visas? They were
correct.
facing a lot of problems, whether it was parents or students, and that was one of the things that that I think had a dominoes effect.
Okay. Uh, is it better now with the change in the establishment?
Uh, Anjali, to be quite honest, I don't think it's going to change because what is happening now is they're looking for affiliated universities. Okay,
Hmm.
so if, for example, UK has Nottingham in Malaysia and it is cheaper to do a course in the Malaysian Nottingham University, then people prefer to go there. And especially with the COVID and with the economic sort of, recession and the kind of effect it's had on people, I think people are looking for cheaper options. Then again, the whole idea of the SATs, and it is just too rigorous. That application process was just too rigorous. And I believe many of these universities have dropped off the SATs and the ACTs, etc. But
Hmm.
I do not foresee an upward trend at all for US universities in the near future because
Hmm.
we have seen a lot of now people going to China, going to Dubai, going Ireland. Ireland is really selling their universities very aggressively because the courses are half the amount of what they were offering in England. And many of them are computer or medical courses, which most of the students are interested in. So basically, we are looking at a shift in the focus, in the lens, in the students' perspective and the parents' perspective in Kenya in particular. And the schools that I've been going to, again, they're not very high cost. It's not like the Hillcrest and the Brook House and the Brabants of Kenya, of Nairobi. So these are the upper middle class income level, and I think they've had quite a setback in terms of the economy, some of the industries, etc. Because most of the people, as I told you, are industrialists. These are community schools. So basically, they are now looking at South Africa was a good option for them as well. But unfortunately, when that got blocked, they're now looking at options of affiliated institutions, right? But in countries where it works out cheaper.
Okay. Okay. That was
Does that?
super helpful.
Yeah.
That was super helpful. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. Any other question?
So if
Any
anybody
other
has
question
any
from?
questions or remarks or anything you want to share about Africa, I'm happy to take those questions. Otherwise, we have 15 pre-decided questions that we can talk about, but I don't want to do that.
I have a question, Ankur, but it's not specific to Africa, just something from Shaheen's own practice,
No
if
problem.
it's
Go
okay
ahead.
to ask.
Go ahead,
So,
Shilpa.
hi, yeah, Shaheen, I'm a school counselor with an IB school. I'm
Mhm.
interested to know what is, your plan in your college counseling session with students and parents as they come in, particularly
Yeah.
when we're looking at grade 12 and it's the time of placements. And how do you initiate your meetings? And is there a specific flow, a systemic approach to discussing countries, shortlisting universities, discussing finance, and be able to sort of target certain scholarships and so on? So how does the flow of the meeting happen?
Okay, Shilpa, very good question. And I think I would not be able to answer it in the small time that I have, but I'm definitely going to leave you my contact, because the career counseling course that I conducted at Cradle actually prepared you and sort of upskilled you in not only developing records, but also in the interviewing process. So we use a constructivist interview
Okay.
psychometric as well. So what you basically do, and I'll just give you a broad outline of what I do, and it works for me very well, is
Sure.
number one, get the school scripts, all right, transcripts or records or whatever, or grades. But that is not something to depend on totally. You have to have a psychometric assessment. If the student is a bit borderline, a little less than the borderline student, all right, somebody who wants to go into a vocational course, who is not, fit for academics. So it all depends on case to case. If you have a very focused sort of intelligent student who can find it easy to walk through, that's fine. But with more challenges appear when you have a dyslexic student or you have an underachiever, etc. So your approach changes with that student. So basically what you do is it's just a matter of synthesizing statistics. So you get your school records, you get your psychometric assessment feedback, because that adds on to the interests, to the reasoning, the different types of reasoning. There's about 5 types of reasoning. It sort of gives you an idea about their inspiration, what inspires them, their motivation, all right, or what are the special skills. And sometimes some of my students have to put them through a skills test, which is a very good test offered by Guide. I am an assessor of the career guide from India, and that sort of gives you a very good picture of which pathway to suggest. So you put all those things together, and the constructivist interview is, you don't take ownership of that interview. You tell the student to talk, but you have a parent sitting next to the student. So basically, it's the student who takes ownership of identifying along with you the skills to begin with, as you're going through the record of achievement, as you're going through their extracurricular activities in school, as you're going through the assessments that they've done. And all this synthesizes into the student actually being able to identify. And then I have resources, supports resources, which if they have, let's say, 3 choices, architecture, maybe political science, and something else, they need to go to the resources and see what is the job profile, what is the income level like, what are the skills that need to be developed, do they match with my skills. And so once they've done their research, they come back for the second session, and I take 2 sessions per student, and then they present that. They actually do a PowerPoint presentation with the parent present, and then we sort of walk through what the student has in mind and see whether everything is well matched and whether he's done enough research on which courses. So I have a system whereby there is a comparative chart that I have, which they fill in with the 3 choices. For example, if they pick up 3 choices per country, 1 choice local. So I usually have a reach, which means extending out to the Harvards and the top league universities if the student is capable. Then there is a match. That means that would be if he's a B grade student, all right, the universities that accept Bs. And then there's an insurance. So if he drops by a grade, which university would take him? And that's how I come to the choices. Of course, I also take input from parents and the students on what are the destinations. Is it a local university? Is it an international, etc.? So it's a very long, drawn out process, which again, within two, if it's a focus, if some of the students have high level of maturity, career maturity, so it takes very short time. Even one session with them is enough. But there are some who are totally lost. They do not have decision-making abilities at all. So basically, you have to start by developing that decision-making in them. So I give them pointers on how to decide, what research to conduct, how to pick up through metacognition, what to pick up, what is relevant to you, pick that information. Okay, so we never dictate, we never put our choices, and I tell the parent right at the beginning that this is going to be driven by the student, not you and not me. And many of the parents have been very happy with that approach, and I think it gives a lot of ownership of that application process to the student. And Shilpa, I'm sure you agree that the IB students have a very high maturity level. They're very good at that.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, thank you very much for sharing your practice and your process. Definitely, it covers so many aspects from student and the parent point of view, and also allow the counselor to be very meticulous in their way of conducting themselves. So thank you very much for sharing. I will connect with you later for more details.
Thank you, Shilpa. Any other question?
Thank you, Shilpa. Yeah, any other questions or comment? I mean, this is really helpful. This is what we want. These are the sessions for
Okay,
community
yeah,
to ask
yeah.
questions.
So Ankur, there was somebody by the name of Tahir Parawala who wanted to join your session, and I believe he got the link.
Yeah, he reached out to me. I had shared his.
I wonder if he's there now, because he had a question and he wanted to ask me, should I do any more courses? He's done a UCLA course and a
Yeah,
uni
he
variety
messaged
course.
me. He messaged me also, but he's not here right now. He said I'll
Okay, so
join
this is
recently.
okay. Maybe I'll just answer that question. Maybe you got a recording which you could forward to him.
We are doing it. Yeah.
Plus experience, 30 plus years of experience in counseling. I've done a univariety course. I've done the UCLA course. Ankur, what do you think would be my answer to that?
See, I have done I have done both the courses, and I don't call myself career counselor. So I think that's where I leave it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, what I'll tell you is that you can do 10 courses and still not have the ability to become a good counselor. What makes you a good counselor is the practical skills, all right? The ability to eke out information from your student. A student who is tongue-tied doesn't want to talk to you, all right? I have had students come and tell me, my father wants me to do that and I don't want to do that, and full stop. And there's nothing else I want to talk about, right? And as a counselor, I have to sort of make him trust me. I have to eke out, sort of crack some jokes, or, put him at ease and make sure, okay, now you're going to talk to me and the father and mother aren't going to know about this, but let's get into this, right? So the first thing is the counseling skills. Those are very important. If you yourself as a counselor cannot get across, you don't have good communication skills to get across to a student, then that is not going to work for you. You can do 20 courses, but when it comes to the practical aspect, that doesn't work. Yeah. And that is the reason why that is a very important part, where I do practical, what I call practicums, where I give them case studies and say, okay, now I am the student, you're the counselor. And then after the session, I give them the criticism on what went wrong and what went right. So that kind of hands-on training is very, very important, which I have as part of my training course. So that was my answer to Tahir. Any other question?
So I'll just add to this. I mean, in terms of my understanding of the two programs that I have done, I mean, connecting with the students is a skill that every counselor, I completely agree with you, must have. I mean, if you can't win the confidence of the student, then you can't really counsel anything for that student, no matter how many skills you have. And I think that's an aspect that is missing in my training programs that I did. I mean, how do you teach somebody to build trust with a
Yeah,
16-year-old and a
yeah.
15-year-old? I mean, and how
So
do you
Ankur,
get
yeah,
connect?
Ankur, the course that I have has got resources that will, I have created all those questions that are going to put the student at ease and how to engage that student. Basically, even asking them about what excites you, what kind of movies do you watch, which kind of matches do you, okay, or have you just pick up on any topical issue that excites him. If it's music and you've seen it in his record of achievement, okay, just start on talking about music. So I have got all those pointers in the resources that I give to my counselors. That's the advantage of my
Fantastic,
course. Yeah.
fantastic.
Mm.
Any more questions? Or I'm sure there are many. Is
I was
really,
expecting many questions.
yeah.
um, okay.
So tell me, I
So
mean, I have a
yeah.
couple of questions that I can go for. I mean, I just want you to talk about how does I mean, Kenya has a very unique university placement system here. I mean, in terms of
Yeah.
placing student in universities, the government, the public institutions, and the private institutions. I met couple of universities also recently, and they were telling
Mm.
that the child doesn't have a say in deciding which universities they go to. The government allocates the universities to them. So if you can tell about this process, I'm very unique.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So as I was saying, all the government institutions that we have, and all the national institutions, the universities that we have, to begin with, parents play a very big role in deciding where students will go. Obviously, because they are the fee, they are the stakeholders. They're going to pay the fee at the end of the day. But what happens here is that we've got a system called COOPS. So COOPS is the Kenya University Placement System. It's a centralized system where you have people who go into schools and they give out forms and they make three choices, right? So they have number one choice, number two, and number three. But there is no career guidance given to the students as to what those three choices are going to be. Okay, so the COOPS personnel sit with the students and may talk them through, look at the grades and see if it's an A or a B in computer. They'll throw them into the computer class, irrespective of whether they have the skills or the interest, right? So it's a very many of actually, for not having made the next two choices, lose out places in the university. Many good students who have not made the second and the third choice are at a loss for these universities. Now, the local institutions are not enough to absorb all these students. So what happens is, in very big national schools like Lenana, we have the top cream of the students. So what happens is, many international universities come and hold talks there and might pick up those students, offer them scholarships, whether it's full or part-time, and those who can afford to, who have got merits, actually land in the overseas universities. But majority of those students do not have access, all right, because they cannot afford, they do not have computers at home, they do not have access to career libraries, they do not have access, especially the schools in rural areas. You won't have representatives going. You might go to the main centers, Kisumu, Eldoret, or Nakuru, or Nairobi and Mombasa, but then they do not have access to this information. Where are the universities, what are the courses? And yet we have very capable students out there, all right. And so that is the reason why there's a very big sort of a dropout. And of late, what we've noticed is that more and more students are now applying for TVET institutions, technical and vocational, because they realize that technology is becoming more important. The university courses do not match up. When they go out into the world of employment, they do not have the technical skills. So we have also seen a greater interest now growing in the TVET institutions, and some of the top good students who are actually meant to go to Nairobi University or the top universities will land up in a TVET institution. So the scene in terms of recruitment, I mean, you have so many students that you can reach out to, but what recruiters need to do is focus on what are the courses you have. All right, if it's the STEM kind of courses or the science based courses, then you need to do it through the science department in these government schools, the national schools, as well as the private schools. All right, and you will be able to tap the top students. If you are targeting humanities, let's say, or business, all right, and that's what I would do. Whenever the University of Newcastle came over, I didn't want them to come and do a talk. So what they would do is they'd come up with alumni in Kenya who've already studied at Newcastle, who would come and give a talk. They would come with students who are conducting research in, let's say, Charangani Hills on environmental issue, all right, environmental science department. So they would come and talk to the students and tap that particular, students for that particular course. I had the university do, they had a competition, a business competition, where students had to prepare a business proposal, and they had it just for Australia. So I told David Weiss, who is actually my mentor, he was the chancellor of Newcastle. I said, why don't you open it to Kenya and to countries in Africa? And so he opened it to Kenya, and they would travel all the way here, give out prizes, and those proposals were an incentive for those students to go and do business studies in Newcastle, because they then showcased what were the plus points, what were the advantages of doing it in Newcastle and not UK and US. So I think those are some of the strategies that outreach recruiters can use, going and doing road shows. The University of Southampton I made them do an experiment where they conduct in year one, where the students detected their gene from their saliva, and then they had little necklaces prepared for them, put it in the necklace around their neck, and they also created protein out of it. And you won't believe, the same evening, and in the evening I had a parent session. So the same evening, the group of students who are now interested in those research courses landed with their parents and had a discussion with the recruiter. And that becomes very, very effective and meaningful. You're not just distributing prospectuses and expecting students to come to universities. And that's the way I see it. And therefore, I feel that universities need to make meaningful engagements. I also want you to know that the Kenyan students, especially the IB and the private school students, are used to a very multicultural diversity that they expect at university level. So if you just have, one community, or you just see, one race at a university, that is something that throws them off. So universities in India, I feel, and all over the world, that's what's happening. They are diversifying, they are building their international community. And that is what sort of fosters ideas, because I feel 80% of learning occurs outside the class rather than in class. And if you sort of highlight your university in terms of their ranking, in terms of innovations that the university has created, or you have an innovation hub, like, University of Warwick, many of the very good universities in UK have innovation hubs, where engineering students actually see students in first year going and trying out, an electric engine or whatever they have developed. And they come and showcase this when they come and do their talks here. They get students from that department to come and talk about it and excite. And the more the peers talk to the students, they will make a greater impact than you as a recruiter. Do you agree?
Got it.
Agreed. I'm all for it.
I have a question. I'm sorry to butt in, but I
Yeah,
have a
Harshita,
question.
go ahead. You are your raised
Go
hand.
ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so, ma'am, this is a question to you specifically and also to other outreach professionals. I'm a PhD student currently, and
Yes.
I aspire to become an outreach professional in one of the leading universities, but I don't know, where do I start from? Where do I begin? So, is this Univariety course that you were referring to? I had a smile on my face because I did that too. I think all of
Okay.
us have
All
done
right.
that at some point. So
Okay.
I did that too,
But what do
and
you
that's
feel
what got
about
me.
it? Harshita, before you go on, what do you feel about that course?
I feel that it's a very, very superficial course. It's for
Mm.
someone who has no idea of education at all or of education
Mhm.
landscape in the country. It's very basic. I think that was something that being coming from I'm a student at NEPA, National Institute of Education Planning and Administration. So I've had a background in education. So doing BLEd, masters, I knew all of that was told to me. It was nothing new.
Exactly.
So I thought it was very
Exactly.
basic.
Yeah, so Harshita, that's what I wanted to put to you, that these are commercialized things that are there for money, right? But they do not have value. And so what I would like to do, in fact, what it's giving me an incentive to create a group who is interested in the career counseling course that I do, and I'd like to give you an overview of what it involves, all right, and the resources that I use. So I can actually do a demo if there is enough demand, Ankur. I don't mind doing a demo, showing you,
Why
walking you
don't you
through
do it?
the
Why don't you
counselor
do it now? Yeah,
support resources.
We would love
yeah,
that,
yeah. Why?
ma'am. We would love that.
Please
Yeah,
do that.
it's just that the time won't allow it today, but
Don't
I would
worry.
want a
You
longer
can give
session
a
for that.
what I suggest you do is you can just give them a 5-10 minutes flavor. I mean, 10 minutes you can
Yeah,
have just
yeah,
to give them an idea. And I
yeah.
think
Okay.
that's a demand
Yeah,
that I'm seeing over and over again since last
yeah.
1 hour or so.
Okay, sorry, Harshita, did I miss out your main question?
Yes, ma'am. My question was that how do I begin to get into this industry? Like, how do I begin my career as an outreach professional? Is it through career counseling? Should I work with a career counseling organization and then eventually does it actually scale up to outreach? Or like, how do I start?
Okay, to begin with, I think it is a match of both. The first thing you need to do is you need to focus on what, who are the people you want to reach out to. Is it just local in India? Is it an international group? Okay, what is the
It's
size of the
globally.
university? What is it recognized, or is it going to be a challenge for you to sort of break the ground, okay, wherever you go? Number two, it's very important for you to pick up the skills. As Ankur was saying, empathy, rapport. You know, Ankur has that beautiful rapport. I actually visited Ashoka and I saw how students related to him, not only in India, even when he came over here, right? Whenever we had a talk, you know, he has this open communication kind of a thing. You know, he can gel with the student, he can gel with the recruiter, he could gel with me as a career counselor, he could gel with the head, right? So those are the interpersonal skills that you really need to develop as a recruiter. So when you gel, that you don't really need to go very deep into career counseling as a career counselor in a school would, right, where I need to go with all. If you link up with a professional career counselor in a school, it makes your job easier, because the counselor will help you identify the students who will be interested in going to your university, and that's what I was doing, so that the career counselors don't have to come and, you know, bash their head against the wall and then, you know, sort of throw out 20 prospectuses and not even get a single student. So if you sort of, the first thing is gauge the kind of career counselor there is in the school that you're going to, right? If you can guide that counselor and say, this is what I have to offer, this is what are the highlights, and these are the plus points, and this is what we have in this institution that other institutions in UK, US, whatever don't have. If it's a school that's interested in international applications, right? It all depends on what you aim to achieve. Are you going to get more people into India, not have that, you know, losing students out to international universities? Then in that case, you have to prove that your institution is as good as that international institution, right? So you will have to merge now a bit of that, a bit of your marketing, because within my course, I also do marketing and branding yourself and becoming an independent counselor like me, an online counselor, and making money, which is tax free. So there's an element of marketing as well. So you'll have to merge the two. And what I'm telling you is you don't have to go into the depth of sort of convincing parents that no, it should be this course or that course. That is the job of the counselor. Leave it to the counselor. But if you do not have a good counselor, then you will have to step into those shoes, Harshita. And if you've done that counseling course, it will be an edge that you will have over the school counselor. It's an extra skill you will have acquired. And I feel that it's not just recruiters, I feel even parents. In fact, I had home parents who wanted to become counselors, and I sort of gave them certificates because they don't depend on any counselors. We don't have any career counseling offices or resources here. So I feel parents, every teacher in class should be a counselor. When I started my geography lesson, I started with, okay, everyone, if you study geography, these are the number of skills you're going to develop. And everybody wanted to run to me. Nobody wanted to go for history, and there was always this history head of department and saying, what magic do you do? And this was the magic I was doing. So if you use the same skill to pull the students towards your institution. If it is a school, let's say, where the computers are very, very dominant, go with the AI, go with the robotics person, go with the robo, and the more you engage the students into it, the more likelihood that you're going to attract them like a magnet. Does that make sense, Harshita?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It does. It does. Yes.
Okay.
And just to I think there's also this element that I wanted to understand, how do I approach colleges? Is it that I just send them out my CVs and hope to become an outreach professional? What can I do to get into the outreach industry?
Okay, I think Ankur can answer that better, but let me give you my perspective first. I don't know if I will answer her right. Ankur can judge me. I think you need to, first of all, give your credibility. They will only employ you if you have a credible record. If you've not done it before, if you present a proposal as Ankur did and say, this is how I intend to attract, and some of the pointers I've already given you, this is what I intend to do, and I feel this strategy of mine is going to attract students to your institution, the institution that I want to represent, and I'm passionate about this particular institution because ABCD. You have also to show them the passion with which you're going, okay, and you're going to be really working to get those students. You have to show them the value you see in that institution. Ankur, your suggestion?
My suggestion is pretty simple. I mean, Harshita, couple of questions. This will be your first job? I mean,
I worked
have
as
you
a
worked before?
consultant for the government. I worked in National Council of Teacher Education and all. But yeah, as an outreach professional, yes.
So how much experience you have there as a teacher, National Council of Teachers you mentioned?
No, not as a teacher. I was there as a consultant. So I was consulting the government on teacher education. So
How
that
much
was
total experience
about
you will
a
have?
year. About a year.
About
And I
1
was
year.
also research associate with the University of Sussex. So I did a project with them for about 15 months. So that's still going on.
So-
It will end by March. Yeah.
So you have a definite outlook towards, I mean, you said you are a PhD student also. You'll be finishing your PhD.
Yes. I'll be finishing my PhD this year.
So perfect. So, I mean, you already understand the education industry and you're part of this industry and you're pursuing PhD, you're going to finish your PhD. Then the next questions you should ask yourself is, why do you want to do outreach? I mean, and there are so many definitions of outreach floating around, and that's why we started the Outreach Collective in the first place. Because if you want an outreach job today in India, most of the universities have open positions for outreach managers or admissions and outreach planners or whatever you want to call it. But then it depends on what kind of universities you want to work for. There are universities and many of them, I mean, who would say, okay, you have a 6 months to 1 year tenure and you have to, it's basically becomes like a sales job. But they'll give you a target and it's like, I want you to give you X amount of salary. Your salary ROI is the number of admissions that you get me at the end of the year. And it doesn't really matter what you do in that 1 year. We are least bothered about the best practices of career counseling, outreach, We don't know where you are going to get students from. Get us the students. So these are A kind of universities. And then there are B kind of universities, which are a few, I'll not say majority of them, but they're really focused on student and they're really focused on doing the right things in the right way. And these universities will tell you, okay, we have a position that we want to hire for, but what can you do for us, right? So I'll just give you an example on how I entered outreach as an outreach guy. By my background, I'm an engineer. I worked in IT sector for about 4 years. Then I went to Dubai, did my MBA, started working there. And it was the turning point in my career came when I joined Ashoka University. And how did I end up in Ashoka University? Shine pointed towards it. I mean, nobody offered me any job. I by my network, I knew the founder at Ashoka, Vineet, who was at that point of time the pro vice chancellor and the founder. And Vineet called me one day and he said, this is a project that I'm working on. And in those conversations, I said, oh, this is something so fantastic. Why don't you take it around the world? I mean, we can actually do outreach for Ashoka in Middle East and Africa and South Asia and Southeast Asia. And he said, can you do it? And I said, yeah, why not? I can do it because I had some experience in these markets. And he said, okay, so you tell me what can you do for us? So I met Vineet one day. In next 2 days, I prepared a complete plan of outreach, marketing, branding, whatever you want to call it. And I gave him a 3-year proposal. And I said, this is the 3-year plan for me for Ashoka. And these are my milestones in all those years. So there were quarterly numbers. And I said, this is what I will achieve in this quarter. This is what I'm going to achieve. And at the end of year 3 is when we would have established Ashoka as a brand, as a university of choice for X amount of students in X amount of countries. So this job never really existed in the first place. And then I met Pramath and I met Ashish and I did my presentation and they liked it and they said, okay, we'll create this role for you. So you have to have the network. So start building your network, which you are already doing by being on the outreach collective. You're meeting the right people. Now that you are here, now you need to understand, okay, these are the kind of people that I want to talk to. These are the kind of institutions that I want to work for. Bingo, you have done your B. And then you see what those institutions are doing currently and how can you add value to what they are or they have been doing or what are their objectives. And then reach out to them, present your plan. And if God will is there, you will get that job. So that's my 2 cents to you on how you end up in outreach. It can be any role, by the way. It's not only outreach, any role that any fresher or any start new upcoming professional wants to join. It's all about, first looking within yourself, looking outward and having there's networks. I hope that answers your question, Harshita.
Perfect. Yes, perfect. Thank you so much. It really answers my question. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks to both of you.
Most
Yeah, Harshita, before you leave, let me tell you Ankur's experience, my first experience, my experience with Ankur and Ankur's experience with me. It will make you laugh. I had been on a death's end. It's the end of the term. So there's a lot of these statements coming in. I'm doing the UCAS application. And then there was an Indian university fair somewhere, which I did not decide to take my students to because the first one I had gone to was such a big disappointment. It was cramped up in the New Stanley Hotel in the middle of the city, and people didn't know what they were doing where. When we go to US or UK recruiters, they're sitting with their laptops. Here was somebody pulling up big sheets, Excel sheets from the briefcase, and half of the things he didn't know. Madam, I have to find out from India. Madam, I'll call you, leave your number. And the students were at a loss. So I said, I'm not going to take my students there. And then the South Indian accent, I couldn't understand. What that fellow was saying. I didn't know how my students were going to understand that accent anyway. So what happened is, at the end of the day, here I am, and there have been about 6 representatives from that exhibition coming to my school because I hadn't been to the exhibition to sell their universities. And the first thing I'd ask them, okay, for a medical student, what do you need? And they'd say 99.9999%. And madam, maths, physics, chemistry, biology. Okay. And I say, this is an IB school. We do not do that. You will not get students here. So when Ankur walked into my office, without looking up, I think I told him, so if you are interested in getting students with 99.9999%, we don't have them. And he laughed. He gave a very, very hearty laugh. And that's what really attracted me to him. And I said, you're laughing? And he says, yes, because we are not that university. And that's what set the conversation going. He said, we are not that university, we're a liberal arts. And I said, India knows liberal arts, because as far as I'm concerned, all I have been hearing is 99.99% in maths. So you see, it's also the way you the impression that you make. I think that also counts a lot. And Ankur, wouldn't you agree?
I mean, you have to know your,
That
you
is
know,
my
you have,
motivation. That is my
yeah, yeah,
motivation, ma'am. When
yeah.
Ankur asked,
To
I don't
break
know your
that,
motivation. I was
yeah,
a below average student and I'm now doing a PhD. So that is my
yeah,
motivation, to be able to
exactly.
give that chance to a lot of students.
Exactly. So then you have the right, I think then you'll do it. Yeah. And I think that's what it's the larger scale of students who don't get a voice, and you need to be their voice. That passion should be there when you get into it.
yeah, yeah. If you have that,
Uh,
the right reasons, God will find you a way. That's the thing.
exactly. Okay. Thank you,
Thank you so much.
Harshit.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
Any other
perfect.
questions?
Any other
Ankur?
questions or comments? I mean, we are over time already by 13 minutes, but if anybody has some last questions or remarks, we are happy to take it. Else, we can. Shine, you want to talk about the training program a bit or no?
Yeah, what I thought is, if I can sort of garner, because then instead of having just one or two, maybe there are more people who are quiet, who haven't talked. Some people are very shy. And if they want to, then if I leave my email here
Yeah, yeah,
in the
please do
chat
that.
box,
Yeah, yeah, please
yeah,
share your contact
they can
details.
get directly in touch. And if I feel
Yeah,
that there's a good group, big enough, then I can do it on your
yeah, yeah,
platform,
yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
or otherwise.
I mean,
What do
you
you
can do
feel,
that.
everyone?
You can do that.
Hi,
Yeah, I
good
think
Do
that
that?
will
evening.
be good.
My name is
Yeah, to
Pritika.
have another
Sorry, I
session
just
on it.
interrupted it between your session, while you were talking. So, ma'am, I really wanted to know about the course because, as Harshita shared, I also just started this journey with a little bit of information, and then I started learning from a lot of sessions which used to be organized online. So, I would definitely want to know the course which you are like just about to tell us, and would like to share it with my other colleagues also to learn more about it, because this is
Okay.
really a amazing session.
So Ankur, can I leave it to you to garner that group together? Then I can have another session at your convenience. Would you like to be
No,
there, or I can organize my
I'm just.
independent Zoom?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Why not? Go ahead, plan it on your own. I mean, if there are enough people interested, I mean, you can plan it at your own convenience and time. Why do you want to be, with me?
Perfect. Perfect. So the two people who have said they are interested, if you
Yeah.
feel there are other people who are interested, please feel free to incorporate them. Just get in touch with me on what time suits you. Create a group if you want to. And then maybe I can leave my number as well.
And
Shall I?
I'd suggest, Shaheen, once you have
Yeah.
confirmed the date and time of this session, you can
Yeah.
put it out in the Outreach Collective WhatsApp group also, so that people who
Perfect.
are not here can also join you if they're interested.
Perfect. Perfect. I'll do that. I'll do that through you. All right.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Perfect.
So I
Any,
think that's about it for today. I think that's about it. You have to say something, Shaheen. You want to say something?
yeah. Questions they asked. And I really love being part of your group, although I know I'm far off, and more a lot of things I can actually relate to, because I think in terms of counseling, we have common ground, both the recruiters and the school counselors
So I
or
have a raised
consultants.
hand. Mudassir
Mudassir,
Nayak wants to add something. So please go ahead.
yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Yeah,
Good afternoon.
yeah. Actually, I am from MIT World Peace University, Pune. I was earlier working with Sharda University for around 6 years in international outreach team. So I just wanted to understand your insights about the Kenya, India market in Kenya. Like, before like 5, 6 years, a lot of students from Kenya used to come to India for studies. But now the number has, almost is, zero. We can say like
Mm.
the amount of students which was coming around in 2015, 16, 17 times time. So
Mm.
it's, drastically have decreased. So can you share your insights? What may be the reasons for that?
Yes, Mudassir. I feel the reason why that happens is because once they're here, they're exposed to many international universities. We have education fairs throughout the year, people from Australia, UK, Canada, Malaysia, everywhere they're coming. So I feel they can now see the quality, the value, all right, of what they're
Mm-hmm.
going to get from a
Mm-hmm.
university, an overseas university, as compared to an Indian university. All right. To begin
Mm-hmm.
with, they have had that exposure, and if there are universities that are showing research rankings, they are showing student activities
Mm-hmm.
that are very exciting. They are showing,
Mm-hmm.
affordable sort of prices, etc. They're showing pathways and the job markets and the graduate destinations. Or if it's helping them to migrate to a country, they're definitely not going to come back to India. So those are, and many
So
of
that.
the university students who went to Australia actually formed it as a migration route, because then they get a job and they sponsor their families, etc. That's part of the reason. But in terms of quality, I think
Mm-hmm.
uh, when you look at Australian or UK or US, there is a quality control. There's a ranking system. There are measures which the students can gauge and say, okay, this is good for my department. you know if it's engineering, definitely they're looking into, will I be given an opportunity to an exposure to technology? Fine, India's got very high level of technology, but then the big
Mm-hmm.
question arises, are they going to get into co-ops like in the US? They get into a co-op year or a sandwich year, MEng. They do 1 year, they do a practical, and there's a possibility of that particular factory or industry taking them over and even paying their fee and getting them to work in their industry. So when they have this kind of a choice, if they have a choice where they are getting scholarships, some of them are top achievers, straight A's, and the universities are giving them scholarships left, right, and center, definitely they're not going to come back to India.
Okay, so the main reason can be like the students, they're not allowed to work in India. That can be one of the reasons, right?
Yeah,
But
that that
you know,
that is definitely, because in UK you can work on the campus without a permit, out of the campus. If you have departmental, as I said, these are sandwich years where you do perhaps 6 months of practical in an industry, if it's a technical or
Mhm.
engineering course. Then they also have this freedom, Mudassir, in terms of, if they want to do engineering in UK or in the US, in Canada, you don't have to decide on which type of engineering in the first 2 years. You give an exposure to all, and there's 40 types. So
Mhm.
if I am a student from India, I'd rather have
Mhm.
this exposure, all right, and not be competing
Mhm.
with the 99.999% there student, and
Yeah.
rather have that exposure and the possibility of getting into a co-op and into a job, rather than going to India and being unemployed, and then not, having this multicultural. They're in schools where there's a multicultural environment now, and they become comfortable there. So I think that makes a very big difference. It opens up your mind. So if Indian universities can get there, get more foreign students, get more activity, engaging activities, get ranking systems, all right, give opportunities to those students, lure them, then they will be able to do it.
I think the
That's my
other
take.
things are already being, yeah, other things are already being worked on. Like now, Indian universities are, focusing on research and rankings and all. And regarding
Yeah,
the scholarships, most of the Indian universities, they are almost ready to uh, get students on zero tuition fee even. So that
yeah,
has been one of
yeah,
the challenge now. Yeah.
yeah. And if they
So.
do that, If they do that
Mhm.
and advertise it enough, put it across to students in Africa, wherever your targets are, they will be able to get these students back. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think that answers my question. Maybe Mr. Ankur can add some things, some points.
I mean, one of the major reasons why, you mentioned about a lot of students going to India and now nobody is turning up.
Yeah.
I mean, the onus lies on the institutions that these students went to. I mean, I have been meeting people here and they tell me the students that went to India in droves are no longer didn't have a good experience. And in our industry, word of mouth is everything. If a student goes to a
Mhm.
university and doesn't feel happy or is
Mhm.
satisfied with the services or the education levels that Shaheen pointed to, then they go tell people back here, and it's a very competitive environment. I mean, I was meeting one of the leading career counselors yesterday, and she was telling me the students are ready to go. There are so many destinations. There is Finland, there is Cyprus, there is China, there is, I
Mhm.
mean, Greece. I mean, all these places that I want to recruit students. So India is not the only country or the only option that these students have now. And if we are not going to up our game, and if we are not going to deliver good quality education, a good quality education experience, we will
Mhm.
end up like this, not getting students. I mean, international students is again a very, very close knit community, and the word goes around very fast. If they have a bad
Yeah.
experience in a particular institution, they generally tend to paint the entire country. Because that is the human mentality. We fastly stereotype places and countries, and we say, okay, all of this is bad, or all of that is not good, or so it depends. So there's a larger problem here, and giving all full scholarships or full tuition fee also may not help you much, because if the education
Mhm.
levels are not good enough.
Yeah, even
True.
some universities in India, like those students, like I get these questions whenever I sit in any exhibition, any exhibition fair. So I get these questions: what is the medium of instruction? Do you teach in Hindi? So these are the questions which I get from the students
Yeah,
here in most of the African countries.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, and some universities, they get the international students, then they teach them in the local language.
yeah,
So that is one of
yeah.
the issue we are facing. Yeah.
So there has
Mhm.
to be a larger institutional goal on why you want to have international students in your campus, and how does it align with your institutional vision, rather than just look good on balance sheet. I mean, that is the sad part. So many of the institutions, Indian institutions, come to Africa thinking ki it will look good on our balance sheet and we'll get some extra students. They are not able to find students even in their own cities, and they come all the way abroad to recruit students, and that is surprising. And I tell them, first recruit students in your own cities and then come out and mention
Mhm.
these. So it's a large, I mean, that's large. We can have another session all together. But thank you so much for your time. I think we are way over time, and we are scheduled 1 hour, but it's almost 90 minutes now. Thank you, Shaheen ji,
It
on
was a
behalf of the
pleasure.
outreach. On behalf of Outreach Collective, on behalf of me and Bhakti and the entire community, thank you so much for taking time out and being here with us. As you have seen the comments already, it was a fantastic session, and people are excited, and the community felt that this 90 minutes added value to their life, and this is what we want to do: have frank conversations around the issues impacting us in the community and impacting our students. So thank you so much, and definitely we'll be in touch, and hopefully we'll see you again very soon on a TOC webinar.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ankur, and thank you all the participants. It's been a lovely discussion. I've really enjoyed being here, and I'm at your service. Any service you require, Ankur, or the greater community, I'm there for you. Okay.
Thank you so much.
So
Bye
thank
bye.
you and goodbye.
Good.
Thank
Happy
you for
Sunday,
this
everyone.
session. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
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 Thank you, Ankur. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for you, to you as well.